The winter is slowly melting away and the trails are really icy or wet and muddy. So it's the perfect day to learn some new tricks, and that's what we are going to do today. We're gonna learn how to wheelie. So first, let's start with the prep work. Get a bike that fits you, and if it has suspension, that's a plus, but it isn't necessary. After that, the thing that I think helps the most is lowering your saddle a bit. In the beginning, it's easier to get the first wheelies with the saddle at normal height, but after that, the benefit of the added control is going to be much more important. So find your optimal seat height. For me, it's about the halfway mark. If you start to go over the back, remember that you can always step off, but if you do fall, and even if you don't, it can be confidence inspiring to start on a grass surface or a softer surface than asphalt, so please start on a bit softer surface like gravel or even grass. And if it's a small uphill, it's also going to be easier as it helps you to not start accelerating, and the distance you need to lean back isn't as far from the ground. And for God's sake, don't use clipless pedals, especially when you're first starting out, or you're just going to end up on your back with your bike over you. With the prep work done, we can move on to the actual wheelie. Remember to always keep one finger on your back brake so that if you fall, you can just pull yourself down to the ground with the back brake. It's a good habit to have for the future. Okay, so start by preloading the bike, or basically just lean forward and press down your weight over the front. And if you have suspension, pop up with it, otherwise just pop up without it. So you want to push down and then come up. When you're going up, remember to stay seated because it'll make it easier for you. I didn't stay seated the first time, so I tried to wheelie. I tried to get up standing, and it doesn't help. You can do standing wheelies, but they are pretty hard. When you are at this point, you want to lock your arms straight and not pull on the bars, and use your body weight to lean back and get the front in the air. By the way, remember to use the back brake if you're leaning back too far. After that, you want to find your balance point where you don't really need to do that much pedaling or braking to stay in the wheelie. For most people, the balance point is probably a bit further away than it feels comfortable in the beginning. For me, it was like that. I leaned back much more than I felt comfortable, but it worked out for me, and that's where the balance point usually is. You may want to blame it on the bike, that the bike is too heavy and you can't wheelie because of that, but sure, sometimes the bike is a bit too heavy, but I have a trick for that. Take a backpack, put some books in it, they'll give you a bit more weight on the back, and then it's gonna be much easier to wheelie. You can also use that when you're just starting out, and the balance point won't be as far back as if you weren't using the backpack. And the last tip of how to start getting the wheelie to work is don't panic pedal. If you start panic pedaling, you're gonna drop the front probably because you're not leaning back enough, so try leaning back a bit more and keeping a steady spin, because that's gonna help you hold a really good looking wheelie. After that, make sure you feel comfortable moving around a bit in the back leaning position, and start experimenting a bit with learn how to rebalance yourself and the bike, and just move around a bit and start trying to turn a bit even. And while on the topic of experimenting, remember that I told you to find your good saddle height. Now I want you to try to find other variants like a low and a high saddle, and find your optimal height where you can get power in your strokes while maintaining control. Do note that in a high speed wheelie you preferably want to have a bit lower saddle, because that extra control is really gonna feel much more comfortable in a high speed situation. And now it's the little tips round. When you're looking at the front wheel, I don't know what happens, but it's some kind of subconscious thing that makes your wheelie just end sooner. Try to look at the street ahead. It helps, trust me, I don't know why. And the second little tip is don't stop the front wheel. It does not fancy physics stuff with gyro stuff, and basically don't stop the front wheel. It helps you balance in some way. And to become the greatest wheelie king of all time like me, I'm just kidding, but become better, you need to learn how to use your brake to maneuver. And just feathering it is probably the hardest thing to master, and makes wheelies so much easier as long as there is no wind.
Oh, that's wind, yep, that's wind.
Oh no, I dropped the front because a fly landed on my handlebar.
The thing flies.
Okay, so basically you can train for every scenario. Those are just a ton of excuses. Actually learn to use your back brake. You need to experiment a bit with that. It's pretty personal how you want to use it, but feathering it is almost the best way. Like, you don't want to squeeze it really hard, because you're just gonna go down on the ground. After this you can practice turning when wheeling and practice getting your pedal strokes even more stable and practicing wheelies in downhills, and that's pretty hard already.
So now that you have mastered the wheelie, you can try harder variants like the one-handed wheelie or the no-handed wheelie. The no-handed wheelie is kind of like, can you do it, can you not? It's really hard on some bikes, it doesn't work. Anyways, moving on. The one-handed wheelie is pretty simple, straightforward. Lock your arm. In that wheelie you can pull it a bit if it's a heavy bike, and if the bike is too heavy, the bike can be too heavy for a one-handed wheelie. I know that my Trek is a bit heavy, but the Radon is pretty okay, but the Radon is also a bit too small for me. Anyways, if you can do a no-handed wheelie, please comment below. If you have anything else that you would like to ask, comment that too. I answer the comments if I get any questions there. And please like the video if you liked it. Subscribe for more videos like this. Get off the phone, get off the computer, get out riding. I'll see you. Bye.